Hello everyone, Mr. Stevens here again with the next lesson in our trigonometry unit. This time we're going to be looking at compass bearings and true bearings, and this is a point of this unit that a lot of students tend to have quite some difficulty with. So I would encourage you, after this video is done, if you are still unsure of the stuff we've talked about, to go over it again with your teacher. Um, Basically what we're going to be doing is looking at the difference between what a compass bearing and a true bearing is. And again, basically, this is just a way to do practical trigonometry problems, just with that added layer of what's the difference between a compass bearing and a true bearing. You should all be fairly familiar with the compass. This is a generic looking compass. All right, let's jump down into what actually a true bearing is. The thing to remember about true bearings, this just says bearing here, but what we are talking about is true bearings. Is that you start from north and you want the angle clockwise from north. In this case, that tiny little angle there is 8 degrees. That's the true bearing there of that red line. Here on the second one, the size of this angle clockwise from north to the red line is 120 degrees. So the true bearing there is 120 degrees. Here we've got an angle of 300 degrees. So the true bearing there is 300 degrees. It's always clockwise. Okay, the biggest trap I see people get caught in is they'll get given a question that looks like this, and they'll get given this angle here, and they'll say that the true bearing there is 50 degrees. Well, that's not the case because the angle clockwise is actually 310. So the true bearing there is 310 because it's always clockwise. We always go around in this direction for measuring our angle. So I'm going to match a few of these here. This one is 60. That's E. Right, if we're told that this is 50, something we have to remember here is that each one of these quadrants is 90. This is 90. So that means that this whole angle has to be this one here, 140, 90 plus 50. This is the trap I told you guys to watch out for. This is not a true bearing of 60 degrees. This is actually a true bearing of 300 degrees. So the answer here is A. Again, you have to add your quadrants together, 90, 90. You know that if this is 45, this also has to be 45 because the whole thing is 90. So you just got to add them together. 90 plus 90 is 180. That's another good number for you to keep in your memory. 180 plus 45 is 225. So the answer to that one is C. Here we've got an angle of 10 degrees, but don't get trapped by that. The actual angle we want is 350 around here. The answer is F. By the way, the reason I know that that's 350 so quickly is that the whole thing is 360, in case you've forgotten that. And here we go. This little angle here is 10 degrees, so we can go 90 plus 90 plus 90 is 270. Take away the 10. 260 is the answer for that one. Okay, that's true bearings. True bearings start at north and they always go clockwise. That's the important thing. This is a language of bearings that is a little bit unintuitive, but I want to point it out for you. The bearing of B from A, the from here is the important word. So that means we're looking for the bearing this way, which is this angle here. That's why it's 120. The bearing of A from B means the bearing of this line here. So we're looking at this angle, which is 300. That's an important point. This language of bearing A from B, bearing B from A. basically put an arrow on the line, I think, like I've done here, is the easiest way to not get confused here when it comes to this kind of language. Right, here's a true bearing example that I want you guys to, I want you to actually have a go at this first. I'm not going to do this one with you. I want you to pause here and have a go at this one. All right, and here we go. These are the answers. We've got, in the first one, C from O. So that means the bearing of this line. We're given that one, it's 210 degrees. And then in the second one, we've got the bearing of D from O again. So it's in this direction. So the thing we're interested in is this whole angle. We know that we've got 90, 90, 90, and we're told that this little bit here is 60. So that's just what I've done there. The whole thing is 330. Okay, that's true bearings. Now, this is where we get the difference between true bearings and compass bearings. When we were dealing with true bearings, we always started from north and went clockwise. Okay, we break both of those rules when we come to compass bearings. Compass bearings, you start from either north or south, whichever is closer. And then you go west or east, depending on whichever is closer. So we can actually go anti-clockwise here with compass bearings. And in fact, in both of these examples, we do. So we have here south 10 degrees east. Let me show you where we got that from. Our red line here is much closer to south than it is to north. So south is the first thing we write down. Now we look at the angle in between south and the red line, and we're told it's 10 degrees. So we write that down next, 10 degrees. Now we look, is the red line closer to east or is it closer to west? It's closer to east. So we finish off the bearing with east. South 10 degrees east. The same thing happens over here. Is the red line closer to N or is it closer to S? It's closer to N. So that's the first thing we write down. What's the angle in between north and the red line? Well, it's 30 degrees. So that's the next thing we write down. Is the red line closer to west or closer to east? It's closer to west, so that's the last thing we write down. The important things to remember here is that you don't always have to go clockwise, and if the red line is closer to south, we can start from south. I'm going to do these ones with you. We want to know the compass bearing this time of A from O. Okay, so let's go through that process. Is the line A from O closer to north or closer to south? It's closer to north, so that's the first thing we write down. What's the angle in between the line? 30 degrees. Are we closer to east or are we closer to west? We're closer to east. That's the full compass bearing. The difference here, when it's a true bearing, we're just looking for that one angle, and then that's our answer. This one has a real rigid process that we can follow to always get the right answer. Is our red line closer to south or closer to north? It's closer to south. What's the angle? We're told that this whole angle here is 120. We know that the whole thing has to be 180, so that means this bit here is 60. Remember, the important thing here is the angle in between south and the red line. We're given the angle in between north and the red line. We ignore that. We want the 60. Now, are we closer to east or west? We're still actually closer to east, so we end it with an east. All right, like I said, a lot of students find the compass and true bearings difficult. So if you're still struggling at this point, please ask your class teacher to go over this stuff again with you. if you're pretty comfortable with the difference between compass and true bearings, you can jump into the textbook. You'll see some questions like this, and you'll also see some questions where um, this is setting up a situation for you to use some trigonometry on. I didn't include any of those here because you guys should be experts at trigonometry by now. So yeah, jump in, get started on that. Thanks, guys.